Welcome to the My Creative Days podcast, where we will talk about all things DIY, home decor, decorating tips, and creating a beautiful home on a budget. I am hoping our time together will spark a creative idea, help you plan your next DIY, or inspire you to finally tackle that project you keep putting off. Grab your favorite cup of motivation and let's chat. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about a little DIY safety 101. So this is something that I get asked about often. And usually it comes about when I am sharing a project that I am doing, like on my reels or on my Instagram, or and somebody will say, why are you doing it this way? Or shouldn't you do it that way? Or so I just thought that I would kind of share a few things about DIY safety, just 101. These are really simple things that everybody should think about or know about when you're starting DIY projects or just starting to DIY in general. It's just, these are some important things to think about. So definitely you want to educate yourself. So you want to take time to research and just understand, specific tools, materials, and techniques that are involved with each project that you're doing. So understand the potential hazards, safety measures, associated with each step. I don't want to scare anybody with these safety tips. It's just things that, I don't want to scare you from starting any DIY project, but it is definitely like safety is something that should be, no matter what you're doing, safety should be definitely thought about and taken seriously when you're doing any kind of DIY project. So another thing, so after you've educated yourself and you kind of know the steps, you kind of know the different tools or the different parts of the project that are involved, use protective gear. So usually with most DIY projects, and I'm going to be completely honest, Matt and I need to be more diligent about this. We are getting better and better, but there's certain projects that we've done for years and it's like, we've never done it that way, but we probably should. And so, like wearing safety goggles and, but I think the older you get, the more you're like, okay, I need to save my eyeballs and I need to, not breathe in all of the sanding dust or whatever, even though I'm outside, or the air quality has been bad here this summer, like in a lot of places. And so, even that, putting on a mask outside because you're breathing in the sanding dust and you've got, the air quality's bad. It's just, so it's just, knowing those things. For me, like one thing, Matt, so like I'm really sensitive to smells. And so whenever I'm, depending on the stain, whenever I'm staining something, that smell is just, I can't take it. Same with like Sharpie or permanent markers. I just cannot, if I were to use, make a big poster with them, I would have to stop or wear a mask. It's just the smell gives me a headache, where Matt doesn't notice it at all. So somebody that doesn't notice it may not think I need to wear a mask or I need to just not breathe this in, or so you just if you make the protective gear a habit, then you don't even have to think about it. No matter what you're doing, you just have it on. So safety goggles, gloves, a mask, just protecting your lungs, your hands, your eyes. It just should be a top priority because you just want to prevent all injuries and you don't want to be exposed to harmful substances, all of that. So definitely make sure that you invest in some protective gear for your projects. Proper tool handling. Now, I know everybody's going to have different, opinions about this. And this is one thing that, learning from, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, learning from, the old school, construction, my dad and, other people in my family that have been in construction, it's a lot different back then than it is now, where everybody, can you tell I'm like trying to So where some people might say, hey, you're using that saw, you need to have gloves on. And another person will be like, the gloves are too cumbersome. I don't want to get them caught in a saw type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, so just proper tool handling, know how to do that. Put all of the safety guards on, like back in the day, my dad, working construction for a cajillion years, like his, I want to say it was the safety, the plastic piece on, I want to say it was a table saw. I can't remember. I'd have to ask Matt for sure, but it was broken off like for years. And then when Matt started getting, his skills started getting better and we started getting, more and more of those, bigger quote unquote tools, I was like, listen, with my dad, I was like, it was like second nature. Like my dad just knew what he was doing all the time. Right. And Matt, even now I'm just like, Matt, are you holding that right? Are you know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to see you get hurt. And so, I'm like, we will definitely have the safety thing on all the time. Like on the saws and stuff, like they're put there for a reason. So that's like, that's one of the simplest ways to do it. Make sure all those safety guards or pieces are on the tools that they need to be on. Don't skip that part when you're putting them together. They are there for a reason. It just takes one time, a slip of the wrist, or you know what I mean? And it's an accident just waiting to happen. So don't skip those steps. Know how to use the tools, put the safety, guards and things on them, and just be covered there. Create a safe workspace. So obviously, the less clutter, the well organized is just going to help you with safety. Don't leave things on the ground as you're working through a project. Set them off to the side so you're not tripping while you have a circular saw in your hand, or you want, adequate lighting and ventilation in your workspace. So just those kinds of things that, again, if you make those a habit as you're working, it just becomes second nature and it's not any extra work. Electrical safety, unplug your things, when you're done using them. Obviously you don't want to be working with electrical tools and things with wet hands. If you're using a heat gun, don't set the heat gun down, like while it's still on and then go work on something else, obviously. But use grounded outlets, proper extension cords, all of that. A lot of our tools now, Matt would more, and I would prefer, except there's a couple of tools that I still prefer, like my orbital saw, I still like it plugged in. I'm trying to think of something else. The heat gun is plugged in. But Matt really likes the, like the battery operated where you charge your battery and then you put, so we have a lot of those tools, but there are a couple of things that still need to be plugged in. So definitely electrical safety is something to think about. Practice fire safety, heat sources such as, heat guns, like I kind of said about that. You don't want to just leave it unattended. Those things get hot. So, even when you're done and you have turned them off, don't then set them on something they're hot. Don't set them on something that can obviously ignite or, cause a fire. Never leave any of that stuff unattended. So I will, when my heat gun is done, or I'm done with it, I should say, I unplug it, then I set it down safely, and then I'll start cleaning up. But I'm not going to put it away in the cabinet where it goes until it's fully cool. You know what I mean? It's just those things. You never want to put flammable, like think of stains or some of your strippers or things. You never want to put those in a garbage can where they can, if they got a spark or something. I've read horror stories where, DIYers, put that stuff in a garbage can and then it ignites and then the whole garage goes down or something. So you definitely just want to be careful about those things and substances that you're using. And then if you can work with a buddy, now I know that's not always going to be able to happen, but Matt and I do a lot of projects together, but there's so many times I'm here during the week when he's at work that I'm doing projects on my own. So if if you're there with somebody and, somebody can kind of watch you and you kind of are both, when we're together, it's like, wait, Matt, turn that off, or wait, I got to unplug this first, and then we'll go over here. It's just to have somebody else there, or somebody else's eyes on the projects and things is always helpful. Follow instructions, use materials and tools that are recommended, all of those kinds of things. Secure your workpiece. So we have our miter saw and our table saw on like cabinets that are on wheels. Does that make sense? So that we can pull them outside of the garage for more ventilation and all of that. So it's handy to have them on wheeled carts, if that makes sense. But those wheels all have brakes. So obviously you want to have the brakes down, and Matt will even sometimes put a huge cinder block like in front of, because we have a little bit of a slant on our driveway. So he will put the cinder blocks in front of those too as well, just as extra, just security. We don't want that, rolling down the driveway as we're trying to cut something. So just make sure your objects or your projects are stable, and we use clamps all the time. And that is a safety thing. Not only is it like holding something in place, but it's like safely secure. Everything is secure so that when you are, let's just say, using a circular saw and you need to, clamp some things together or clamp the piece of wood onto, like your work table, it just keeps everything together, contained, and, clamped, supported while you're working, so there are no accidents or nothing like that happening. And know your limits. Again, this is something that don't start using major power tools that you have no idea how to use. You've never used them before. Work up to that. You don't want to start there, because again, that's just an accident waiting to happen, and just don't do that. So that's it. That's what I have for my list for some DIY Safety 101. Just tips and precautions for newbies or just as you're starting out. These are things that you definitely want to think about. It's nothing, I don't want to scare you or hinder you from doing any projects, but it definitely is some things that you should definitely make a habit. Like, make these things a habit for every project. And then it's just like second nature. It's not any extra work. It's not any extra step. It's just got to do all of these things and check them off, check off the checklist as we're working on our projects. And it's no thing, super simple. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if these podcasts are helpful. You can reach out to me, Lindsay, at mycreativedays.com. You can always reach out to me on Instagram at mycreativedays. I love hearing from you. If you have any questions or ideas or things that you would love for me to cover on the podcast, I'm always looking for those suggestions as well. So reach out to me with those as well, and I will get them on the schedule for sure. So until next time, I hope these tips helped, and keep DIYing. Talk to you guys later. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm grateful that you tune in every week and that you share the show with your family and friends. I love having creative chit chats with you, and my hope is that this podcast will inspire you to try a new project, start a DIY that you've been putting off, and decorate your home exactly how you want it. There are a few ways you can help us with the podcast. Follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you could take a few minutes to leave the podcast a review, that would help us so much. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to our chat next week. Bye-bye.